Continental Tire was founded in 1871 and was a leader in motorcycle, bicycle, and automotive tire development and innovation. They originated the first water-dispersing groove tire back in 1904 and, during the 1970s, were the most popular brand of bias-ply tire in the USA. They were involved in many forms of racing and steadily took over other tire manufacturers as well as automotive component supply companies. In the mid-1980s, Metzler, at the time still a German company, released a sportier bias-ply tire in the form of the ME33 and the ME99, and then Radials took over the original equipment tire fitment for most new motorcycles. Subsequently, Continental's market share of motorcycle tires in the USA collapsed from 50% to 4% in just a matter of years. No doubt there was a sting of pride, but from a business perspective, the loss was largely irrelevant because of Continental's diversification into other types of tires, as well as becoming a huge manufacturer of automotive electronics. Currently, Continental is the fourth largest manufacturer of tires in the world and the third largest automotive parts and electronics manufacturer. They have over 200,000 employees worldwide and has gross revenues that is about, say, 250% of, Yamaha. Back in 2008, a small group inside Continental decided to get a little more serious about motorcycle tires again. They rehired one of their former engineers, who had gone on to revolutionize Pirelli's product line. Pirelli had ultimately bought Metzler before largely getting purchased by the Chinese, but that's a whole other story. This top motorcycle designer is the name Thomas Zoller, and Zoller set about creating the Conti Attack line of performance radials for motorbikes. I was fortunate enough to attend the press launch for the original Conti Attack line of tires at Continental's Proving Ground in Hanover, Germany in 2010. That development facility has a dedicated wet track, a road course, and the world-famous banked Conti-drome. The Conti Attack tires re-established Continental as a performance sport tire that is capable of some light racetrack duties. Those tires, broadly, are the Conti Sport Attack, Conti Road Attack, and, less famously, their SM tires. The Sport Attack 4 has a higher speed rating for super sport bikes, while the Road Attack is a little more geared to longer tire life and more tread for more standing water dispersion. That said, a year ago, I watched one of my friends try to break a Sport Attack tire loose in a pouring rainstorm going up a mountain in West Virginia. All he did was pull wheelies, reminding me that the Sport Attack works just fine in the wet. In 2020, my daughter wanted to expand her riding from dirt bikes to street bikes, and I needed tires for her KTM Duke 390, which would work with her diminutive 100-pound body weight, and I figured a set of Conti SM tires would work well because they are built for a light rider and bike combination, and she could ride them on the street and track. They would work when it's wet or cold, and they wouldn't need tire warmers. These tires performed admirably and did multiple track days with 2 light female novice riders, including a track day in the rain, as well as a couple thousand miles of back roads, some wet, and even some dirt riding thrown in for true Super Moto style. I eventually pulled the Continental tires off the Duke 390 after a few years, and even after all that abuse, they still looked great. I only removed them because I started getting superstitious about just how long they had been on the bike. The long-serving SM tires on that Duke 390 were the Evo SM tires, and the new ones are even better. With my unintentional and unplanned long-term test of the previous generation tire, I can say that these new ones are an excellent choice for any lightweight bike and rider combination that won't be generating the forces of high-speed supersport bikes. They are a great choice for performance street and light-duty track usage for ultra-lightweight sport bikes, particularly with light riders. The SM2 tires have an H speed rating of 130 miles an hour, so it's best to keep them off the really fast track-going bikes. Raphael Michel, Continental product manager and a Super Moto racer in his own right, outlined the improvements that Continental built into their new SM2 tire line. The premise of the revision to the product line is to increase the service life of the tire while giving the tire better dry, but particularly better wet grip. Continental increased the tire life with deeper tread, as well as the clever choice of simply removing any voids from the backbone of the rear tire. The voids on the tire are at the minimum for a TUV DOT street tire, allowing for more rubber to grip the road. Continental also revised the carcass to make it both lighter, down 140 grams, as well as to deform more to increase the contact patch at lean. These revisions increased the rear tire mileage by 16% and increased the front tire mileage by 28%. At the aforementioned Hanover test tracks with the official Continental test riders, the new SM2 tires were 1.17 seconds faster on a 90-second dry test lap compared to the SM Evo, and a stunning 2.4 seconds faster on the 60-second wet track. Continental has some unique features to their performance motorcycle tires, one of which they are all made in their original tire factory in Korbach, Germany. Another is that they don't use multiple compounds in the tires. Instead, they heat cure the tires in an asymmetrical fashion so that the centers are heat cured to a longer wearing rubber, while the sides are heat cured to leave a softer and grippier rubber. Anyone who has had either a close call on fresh rubber or watched a riding buddy have a slide on mold release will welcome that Continental finishes their tire with traction skin, which gives even brand new tires immediate grip, obviating the need to progressively scrub in the surface of a new tire or nervously watch your mirrors as your daughter pulls out of pit lane behind you on new tires. Although there are seemingly endless ways to process and blend the two, most tire compounds have two primary building blocks, silica and carbon black. Silica tires work well in lower temperatures and due to microscopic hydrophilic properties on wet pavement. Carbon-based tires can ultimately provide more grip and work at higher temperatures, but also really only work on dry surfaces due to their hydrophobic nature. The SM2 tire uses a heavy on the silica compound for the front and a proprietary black chili, sort of more carbony compound for the rear. In theory, this should give the front tire more grip than the rear when it's wet or cold, and the rear a bit more grip than the front when it's hot and dry. It's really not a bad way to live on the street. One of the most beautiful results of geologic pressure between Europe and Africa is the upthrusted chain of mountains straddling France, Italy, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and notably for this story, Austria. Regardless of the nation, the culture of the Alps revolves around cows, cheese, beautiful houses, and firewood. Continental booked an alpine testing track, which is usually used for official evaluation of passenger car tires. It was a very tight track and had almost no runoff, and it had pavement with intentionally low grip and two turns. It was also in a breathtakingly beautiful valley surrounded by soaring peaks and towering pine trees. The KTM SM 690s only used first to third gear on the tight track. The tall, soft, vague SM 690 form factor took me a bit to get comfortable with, but after about 20 minutes or so, I started to get knee down enough to try out the Continental's grip limit feedback. Continental wanted to engineer feedback into the tire to offer a large window between when the tire started to squirm and when they let go completely. The two slippery turns on the test track gave feedback of the front tire tucking but not folding up, and as I got enough temperature into the rubber, I could then drag knee through those slippery turns without the front moving around at all. We weren't giving the tires a high-speed load, so heat buildup wasn't a problem, and they worked from lap 1 all the way through the day. Then we took the same bikes on the same physical tires on a 3-hour street ride through the Alps. The verdant green grass is the result of frequent precipitation, which means the road can be dry to wet to dry, all in the space of a single turn. And given the mountain culture, it isn't a bad idea to cover the front brake, because coming around any blind turn, there might be cows, or tractors, or cars, or bicycles, or sometimes an overly exuberant wheelie looping riding companion blocking the road. With the traction control disabled and as much of the ABS as I could figure out how to turn off turned off, the tires worked great. I could tighten a line when an oncoming tractor was using a bit of my lane. I could even hold a line when the pavement got bumpy and then wet, all in the same turn. And this is all at a spirited pace, but mainly on really tight roads, like sometimes first gear switchback roads, even on a really low geared 690 SM. The Super Moto street bikes are not really as popular in the US as they are in Europe, and that said, there are plenty of ultra lightweight bikes running around, and the SM2s are a great tire for a light rider on a light bike who wants to be able to go from the street to the track to a dirt road, all without having to dismount tires.